Hello to all out there. Appreciate you guys joining us, guys and gals. It is May 3rd, Sunday, May 3rd, video-based rules session number 7. Daniel loves my jokes, so I heard a really good one about this whole pandemic today, and I think somebody was saying it feels like it's March 63rd, which I thought was kind of clever and fitting, so I thought I'd share that. Okay, one reminder before we get going. Next Sunday is Mother's Day. All right, so don't forget, and just want to take a minute to brag on all the mothers in my circle. That's my wife, Melanie, with our kids, Connor, Lillian, and Oakley. That's my mom, Linda, and that is my mother-in-law, Jill, affectionately known in officiating circles as Grandma Jill. Not just officiating circles, everybody's circles. So, you know, the greatest photobomb in the history of photobombs was right here. We were all getting, you know, really anxious for our crew picture. It was early in the season, and my wife, Melanie, photobombs. Unbelievable timing, unbelievable spontaneity. So let's remember the people that support us, you know, like getting on a webinar during the pandemic every week. Just don't forget to, you know, really spend time and bolster your support system, because without these folks, we just can't do what we all love to do. All right, let's get going. Video-based rules. Number 7. Okay, we're gonna. So what are we gonna talk about? We're talking about spots. We're talking about IDP, a little targeting, a little onside kick action, and then a bunch of different stuff at the end. Stick around. Play 1. There's a poll. What's the spot and result of the play? So watch this play, and let's talk about spots. Let's talk about result of the play. The poll is up now. The video's gonna loop. So your choices are basically in reverse order, going, you know, towards the goal line. Is the spot the B10? Is it the B9? Is it the B8? Or is it the B7? I believe the line to gain is in fact the B7. So, you know, play that threatens the line to gain. And we'll talk about rules. What's the rule that governs this situation that is really interesting to me? We'll talk about forward progress. And this is really a different type of forward progress than we normally talk about. Usually forward progress is a player getting, you know, stood up, pushed back. We saw a little bit of that yesterday. This is just really the forward progress spot at the sideline. So votes are still coming in. Just thrilled everybody's joined us again today. Can't say enough how thankful we are to be able to do this. Wouldn't do this without people joining. So this is just a whole lot of fun talking football in a very interesting time in our world. So thank you once again. Votes are evening out, so let's end at 60%. Have him out at the B9, the spot at the B9 short of the line to gain, and 24% are at the B8 short of the line to gain. And really, you know, I think the point is clear. So what we're seeing is 84% have him short of the line to gain at the 8 or the 9-ish, and that's really excellent. You know, so let's talk about what the rule is and why those that picked those options are correct by rule. Okay, so, you know, the rule reference here is 424D, and you know, it talks about the forward point of the ball when declared out of bounds between the goal lines is the point of forward progress. Okay, when a ball carrier is airborne as he strides across the sideline, the foremost point of the ball where he breaks the sideline plane is really that point of forward progress. So from this view, we can really prove this by looking at analyzing 2 angles of this play. At this point, the ball carrier's left foot's in bounds, but look, where's the ball? The ball is really breaking the plane of the sideline. It's a great camera shot right down the sideline, okay? So ball's breaking the plane on the sideline. Now he's airborne. So the reference kicked in. Okay, airborne runner breaking the plane of the sideline, ball clearly across the sideline. It's really still, a live ball. I mean, the play's not over yet. Okay, we know the governing rule in terms of where the spot's going to be, but think about this. The play's not over yet. It's really not over until a body part touches the ground out of bounds, which makes the ball dead right there. So now we're on the ground. Now we have a dead ball by rule. So a lot of different rules working here. When's the ball live? When's the ball dead? What's the spot? The mistake we don't want to make is putting the spot where the ball becomes dead, because we have a rule to govern that. Now, let's go to this angle. So we know that when he leaves the ground, we know the ball's already breaking the plane of the sideline. And so we can index that point to help us find the spot, right? So look, the ball's already breaking the plane of the sideline. No questions asked. We saw that from the other angle. All right, so player is in the air, and we just circle the ball here and really index the foremost point of the ball is at the +9. I think this camera angle, maybe ahead of the action, pushes that ball back. So those of you that said the 8, you weren't totally inaccurate either. It's somewhere between the 8 and the 9, a little closer to the 9. Think about it, though. This player, the ball's still alive. He could actually throw this ball at this point. It would be miraculous, but he could throw it forward, which would be illegal, beyond the line of scrimmage, but the ball's still alive, so he could do that. He could throw the ball backward. He's in the air. The ball's across the sideline, but it's not dead. If somehow he fumbled and the ball's in the field of play, that's a live football. So just kicking today off with some definitions: live ball, dead ball, where's the spot? Really, this spot is hanging until that point. Okay, now the ball is dead. Now the rule kicks in, and basically, in terms of visually working this play, we almost just have to know that, like, we have to get used to using references and landmarks. There's a pylon sitting there. It's a part of the TV production, but let's use it. That, designates the line to gain. So if we know this player's out of bounds and all this action kind of blows up that pylon, there's really just no chance that that's the spot because of the rule reference we looked at. Right? Piecing these angles together for analysis purposes. So we just basically want to understand how that player got there, what path he took out of bounds, and then we can make a very strong spot at the 9, or maybe a little bit inside the 9, since this camera angle is forward of the action, pushing that ball slightly back. All right, so pause there, spots at the sideline. Good job on the poll, really good job on the poll, but have any questions come up on this play?
No, Brandon, I think we're good. Maybe just talk a little bit about that concept of the, not to get too deep into the whole replay aspect, but just the idea of the location of the camera, moving the ball forward and backwards, just so everybody in the audience is really clear what we mean there.
Yeah, absolutely. So when the angle of if we don't have a shot right down the line, when the angle of the camera is behind the action, almost kind of shooting from behind the action, then that makes the action on a two-dimensional screen look more forward than it really is. Okay, and you can use some of this. So like right here, when the player leaps, his things in space aren't actually what they appear unless the camera is right down the line. And I'm sure we have some replay officials in attendance that can probably, state this a little more concise than I am. But so camera angle, from behind the action pushes, for example, the ball forward. Camera angle from in front of the action pushes the ball backward. And that's why, like on line to game plays and goal line plays, what's the spot? It's just so crucial. It's so crucial to get down the line shots, Daniel. I mean, does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think you explained that really well. And just for, we all are watch football from time to time. And I think just from the fan perspective, when we're looking at spots, whether it's line to gain or goal line, that's why we end up with stands oftentimes, because we're looking for IVE indisputable video evidence, which really we can only get when it's really tight, when that camera's right down the line. So you explained that really well.
Very good. Okay, let's move into, so I hope our line of scrimmage people are getting some work today. This is what it's all about, working different positions, working different concepts. Let's move into IDP. Okay, so we're going to have this play loop, and we're going to see a lot of good IDP plays. IDP, what is that? Start talking acronyms. Ineligible receiver downfield. Why is it called IDP? Ineligible downfield on a pass, I guess is why they called it IDP. So watch the left guard. Watch the left guard on this play. He's really number 54. And just evaluate the play. You're working the play. Is this a foul? Is this a foul for IDP? Is it not? All right. So we're watching the play. We'll attack the rule, and then we've got a lot more good play examples. So really impressive results on play one. I'm so impressed by the rules knowledge of the audience, just knowing, and I know it's not a very complicated concept in nature, but that is tough on the field, and I bet you there's some really good tips in the chat in terms of how to get those spots. Okay, so now we're transitioning to IDP, looking at number 54. He's the left guard, and this is a pretty easy play. They're all easy when you see it 3 times. All right, so just making sure that everybody has a chance to vote, looping the play over and over. What do we think about it? What are we looking for? All the aspects of the rule. Very, very, a lot of intricacies in the IDP rule, and not to mention that this whole 3 yards business with run pass option plays. We're bringing in a lot of looks at these types of plays. Let's end the poll. 82% no foul for IDP. Absolutely correct. So good job. Good rules knowledge. We're starting off with a bang. Let's get this up. Transition our clips here. What's the rule? 7-3-10. Okay, ineligible receiver downfield. Can't be more than 3 yards beyond the neutral until a passer throws a legal forward pass that crosses the neutral zone. A lot of things going on there. Then we have this exception of a passer legally throwing the ball away that lands near or beyond the sideline. That's interesting. So back to the play, just to confirm what our poll results showed. We're watching the left guard. Okay, he's going to release downfield, but what did the rule say? Where is he at the release of the pass? And this is very, very important that we're all understanding this rule. So the quarterback's going to throw the ball out here to the left, and our left guard, number 54, 52, whatever he was, is releasing. And look at how far these guys can make up space in a short amount of time. We snap at the plus 46, right? Which means, if he's not beyond the plus 43, when the ball's released, not when it's touched by the receiver, when the ball's released, it's legal, which this play is. Okay, and what can happen to us here? We're all looking and working the catch, and then all of a sudden, maybe our backside line of scrimmage guy sees this guy downfield so far. If we don't see the whole action, if we don't know how he got there, and we just come and see him now with our vision, don't call it. We're not going to be correct. We have to see the whole action. We have to see the whole action. We have to see him release, and we have to index where he's at when the passer throws the football. Look at the quarterback's releasing the ball. He's barely a yard downfield, and so that play was legal. Here's the difference. Watch the right guard. Right guard's going to fire out, okay? And where's he at when the quarterback releases the ball? Very important concept that we just want to hammer home. So he's right at 3 yards, and say, wow, I don't want to be so technical on this. Well, yeah, we do. The rule says we have to be technical. So we're snapped at where are we at? The minus 33 out to the minus 36. Receiver catches the ball. The ball has crossed the neutral zone. No questions asked. That's just obvious. Obviously beyond the neutral zone. 4 yards beyond. We don't even have to worry about that. Okay, ball is beyond the neutral zone. As we get several looks at this. And, you want to start to think about how are defenses playing this? it's got to be really tough. Quarterback fakes it. This is really kind of a run pass option look, which is so prevalent in the game. The linebacker's reading this guard. Is he going to run? Is this a pass play or a run play? What are we doing here? So with the right guard firing out and occupying that linebacker in space, that's the whole reason why we want to be pretty technical on this call. Not that we want to go and guess, but we definitely want to be, we kind of want to tighten down and really honor that 3 yards. Because think about this. If the passer throws the ball in this area, now we've got a case for OPI, which is very rare for us to call OPI on an interior lineman. But this is really blocking downfield. He's more than 3 at the release of the pass. So in this case, this was a real quality call for IDP. Daniel and Tuta, what discussion are we having? Any clarifications needed before we keep rolling?
Yes, Brendan, if you would talk about mechanics, if you will, we have people who work at multiple different levels. Some of us use alternates. Some of us have 8 officials. Some of us have 7 officials. Talk about mechanics and who, would, especially the first play. I know we're talking about primary, and I have a different opinion about when we ask about who's primary. Great question. We got 2 more IDP plays, and I think this discussion is I'm gonna help carry this discussion out, and then we'll circle back. Is that cool? Yes, perfect.
Okay, very good. So let's go to this next play. We're still on the topic of IDP, and again, remember, look at the exception. If the passer is legally throwing the ball away and the ball lands near or beyond the sideline. So a little bit of overlap into our intentional grounding mechanics, especially from the referee and center judge position. And what are you talking about? IDP, intentional grounding, how can that overlap? But check this play out. We're gonna be snapped at the -47. Okay, which means, again, reference points. Let's use these landmarks. They're here. Let's use them. The 50-yard line is a great landmark here. It's a big line, big white line in the middle of the field. So we can use those landmarks, and they really are great aids. Okay, quarterback's going to get flushed out. What's common in an IDP type of play? What's common? Play breaks down. The timing's off. Quarterback flushed out, scrambling, okay? Now, look, there's the number 10 here, tried to jam his finger by touching that ball on the sideline right there, which his coach, if I was his coach, I would ask, what are you doing? Trying to catch the ball, just let it fly. So this is clearly a ball being thrown away at or beyond the sideline, okay? And 75, look, we talked about the 50 being our IDP landmark. From inside the interior line here, 75 or maybe that 76, clearly beyond the 50 when the ball's released. Clearly beyond. But what do we know, okay? What do we know about the exception to the rule that we just looked at? It's not a foul if the quarterback is legally throwing the ball away at or beyond the sideline. So how do we determine that? This is where it overlaps into intentional grounding. Think about it. So here we go, 76, he's downfield, quarterback flushed out. How can he legally throw the ball away? 1 is he can legally throw the ball away if he's not under pressure. But 2, he can legally throw the ball in this case if he is under pressure and out of the pocket, out of the tackle box. So referees, center judges, we talked about intentional grounding mechanics, map the pocket. Landmarks, check it out. The bottom of this logo in the middle of the field is really, if we can use that, we can basically say if he gets past this logo, he's out. So in your pregame walk-arounds, we talked about game management yesterday, pregame walk-around, referees, center judges, find these landmarks. We can find these landmarks and say, okay, if he gets there when we're snapped on the hash, I can easily put him out. So this is a great example of the exception to the IDP rule where, this just really not a foul. It used to be by philosophy. Now it's by rule. It's codified in the rule book. Thank goodness. I love when they take our philosophies and make them rules. So in this case, perhaps talk about mechanics a little bit. The line judge on that last play, the line judge would be at the bottom of the screen, really primary because he's backside line of scrimmage official. But I don't say the umpire shouldn't even be thinking about this. And so let's look at one more play and address mechanics even more. Okay, so we've talked about legally throwing the ball away at or near the sideline. We've talked about the 3 yards, and he's got to be more than 3 at the release of the pass. So here we are on this play, snapped at the -25. So our IDP zone is really going to extend out to the 28-yard line in this case, right? That's our 3-yard zone. And on this play, we're going to have a little bit of action there on this back coming out of the backfield. But watch this left guard, number 52 or 54, one or the other. Okay, quarterback still has the ball. He's clearly beyond that 3-yard landmark that we were talking about. So mechanics, here we go. Backside line of scrimmage guy. This is you. You have to own this right here. You have to own this, and it really turns into a 2-step process in terms of find the player that's more than 3 downfield, find the status of the ball, and then really it can be the same for the umpire in this case, okay? Find the player who's more than 3, find the status of the ball. If he's more than 3, the quarterback still has the ball. Now we actually have a 3rd step. The pass has to cross the neutral zone. And so where does our 3rd step come from in this play? It would be this line of scrimmage official who's actually the line judge, and they're very used to, in passing situations, ruling on pass, crossing the neutral zone or not. This pass clearly does not cross the neutral zone. The pass was not first touched beyond the neutral zone. This is a pass that's touched at or behind the neutral zone, as we kind of lump that at or behind together. So quarterback throws the ball. Certainly we're more than 3 yards downfield here, but not a foul for IDP because the pass was touched at or behind the neutral zone. Okay, so we talked a little bit about mechanics, backside, umpire, help us out. Now let's talk about replay real quick, and then we'll circle back to Todd's question. So let's say the crew puts a flag down for IDP, so we announce an eligible receiver downfield, offense number 52, 5-yard penalty, replay first down. Okay, replay can look at this, and they're just going to use this line feed. What's reviewable? 52 being more than 3 at the release of the pass? That's not reviewable. That's all on the field, okay? But what is? Where was the pass touched? Where did 27 for the offense touch the pass? So if we had a flag on the field and we announced it, where 27 touched the pass is reviewable by rule because it's inherent in the rule that, we're ruling that 27 touched the pass beyond. Now, if we have a flag down and we pick it up, best practices when we pick up a flag, announce why we pick it up. We go into amount of detail relative to the situation. In this case, let's say we pick it up. We say, there's no foul on the play for ineligible receiver downfield. The pass was touched at or behind the neutral zone. And just go with me here. Let's say 27 actually touches the pass instead of him basically touching the pass right there on the big line at the 25. Let's say he is at the 26 and touches the pass first at the 26. The ball's completely beyond. Okay, now us announcing the flag pickup and as to why in terms of where the pass was touched, now that's reviewable. And if 27 touched the pass beyond, and if 52 is more than 3 downfield by our on-field judgment, instant replay can now come back and create a foul for, reinstate the foul for ineligible receiver downfield. The only other mechanic that we can use to make touching of the pass reviewable with an announcement is even if we have no flag, and like in this case, let's say the umpire runs to the referee and said, hey, I would have had ineligible receiver downfield on 52. I'm just not sure where the pass is touched. Obviously, we want to communicate with the line judge first. Now, unfortunately, we've had examples, where line judges just kind of break down on the mechanic for where was the pass touched, at or behind or beyond. Okay, so in that case, if we announce there was no foul in play for ineligible receiver downfield because the pass was touched at or behind the line of scrimmage, even if we didn't put a flag down, that announcement would make the touching of the pass reviewable. So a lot of different concepts there to think about and really be very, very good communicators in terms of on the field mechanics, pregame discussions with our replay crew, communication between umpires, line of scrimmage people. How does the referee announce it? What's our triggers to go find that information? Okay, this doesn't just happen. This happens through repetition, discussion, and preparation with the crew and as individual officials. So Tuta, help me out on mechanics in terms of, really primary. We switched a couple years ago in at least in 8-man mechanics. You're gonna have to help me out in 7. We switched to the backside line of scrimmage official. That's defined by which way the play goes, which is kind of a weird definition, but that's true. So in this play, the line judge is at the top, head line judge at the bottom. The head line judge would be primary on scene 52 downfield on this play. But I don't think we let the umpire off the hook. Do you?
No, and personally, I get really agitated when we start talking about, well, who's primary, who's going to see it, because it's almost like we're saying it's not my call and not my job to do something like that. And I really don't think that's a very good crew identity to create. And I think if we see a foul, we need to throw a flag. And I don't want us to get into the habit of saying that's not my call. If we are able to see this action and we know that it is a foul, why not just drop the flag? And I think sometimes we get into self-preservation mode. Well, I'm not going to get the downgrade. He's going to get the downgrade. And we start getting into things like that. And that's why I get a little agitated when we start talking about whose job is it and who's primary and who's going to see it. We have mechanics that are guidelines, but I think if a person who sees something that is not their primary responsibility, it's still incumbent upon them to officiate the game in a way that they can. So that's why I just get a little agitated with that. But from a mechanical standpoint, yes, the backside line of scrimmage official is who we are expecting to see that action.
Yeah, exactly. Daniel, what do you have to add?
I don't have anything to add in regards to that topic. I agree. Absolutely 100%. Very convicted about that. Like, let's get the call right. Let's work together as a crew, and let's just work through those. But let's not avoid that responsibility because it's too challenging or too difficult. Let's look for ways to adjust our mechanics to get the call correct. A couple of things, though, I want to go back to. First, we talked a little bit about this in our OPI conversation a couple of weeks ago. Let's just revisit this real quick for us, Brandon. Relative to touched at or behind, remembering that when we make that announcement, we want to use both of those indicators, because if we say behind and the ball's touched at, then we just, we leave ourselves open for a little bit of uncertainty or just inaccuracy. So we want to use both of those. And then the other thing is, when we're officiating this play, both on the field and through the replay process, just really quickly take us through this idea that we're not there. What about that 1 yard buffer? What about, how are we using that?
Oh, yeah. You're talking about where the pass was touched?
Correct.
Okay, great. So, yeah. All right. So what we used to do is say we're going to give them a yard. That's kind of been the thing that we said for some reason. Okay. What the rule was, and this is why we did this. What the rule was is that the player who touched the pass, for the pass to be considered to have crossed the neutral zone, the player who touched the pass, his whole body and the ball had to be beyond, almost like we do with the illegal forward pass for the quarterback being beyond the line of scrimmage. All right. So when we said give them a yard, what we were really saying is that for the whole body of the player who touches the pass and the ball be beyond the line of scrimmage, if that pass is touched within a yard, it's very likely that one of those two requirements is not met. Either the player's foot is still at or behind the neutral zone, an arm, a shoulder, okay, whatever. So that's where this whole give them a yard came from. And unfortunately, I think we started to use it as too much of a crutch and just miss plays. So what we've done now and how we work plays now is we're just using the position of the ball. And really that's a standard that we want to work for accuracy. That's the standard in terms of what's, reviewable for the pass being having crossed the neutral zone. It's really just the position of the ball. So we've evolved with that a little bit. And I think, I'm not sure the why, Daniel, we've evolved in terms of it's not whole body and ball. It's just ball now, but it doesn't matter why we've evolved. Really, it's just the ball. So let's work for accuracy. Now, if we're in doubt and the player is running at the line of scrimmage and he touches the pass and it's real close, I think we're still going to say the pass was touched at or behind the line of scrimmage. But I'd really prefer, and I think you agree, that we just get away from talking about giving them a yard, because that's not a very good crutch to use, especially since the standard has changed.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. I think we just need to get away from that language in this context and the OPI context, and just officiate it as it's written. And that is the line of scrimmage and where the ball was touched. So just want to make sure we're all on the same page there. In the same kind of, I guess you would say, vein of being really accurate, I feel like we used to talk about IDP and, well, he's just at 4. And we were very liberal in where we were going to call it an actual foul and not. But you made the point on that Hawaii play that, really effectively, are we looking at this as a plane, and what's that evolution about for us? And just want to make sure we all are on the same page, that we're that liberal interpretation has gone away, and we're gonna really hold them to that 3 yards.
Yeah, it's really the advent of the run pass option scheme. RPO is I think what people who actually know what they're talking about call it, unlike the way I sound right now. The RPO, I believe, has been the trigger for us to really tighten down and just look at that play. I mean, go back and look at that play. The right guard fires out and occupies the linebacker. So if they're able to throw the ball right over the top of the linebacker, and that guard is at 3 yards, whether there's contact or not, all right? If they're able to throw the ball right over the linebacker because the guard fires out and is more than 3 at the release of the pass, what an amazing, incredible advantage for the offense. And as of today's rules, that would be an unfair advantage if he's more than 3. I know a lot of people have advocated that rule being tightened down to even 1 yard, but that doesn't seem to be getting a lot of support, in rule change processes. So really, that play illustrates the whole intent and spirit of the rule. If you're an official who really likes to dig into that kind of stuff, I think that stuff is very interesting. The right guard firing out on that play, occupying the linebacker's attention, he steps up. They could really just throw the ball right over the top of him. It really opens up the middle of the field. So, Daniel, that's, I think, why it's just a great illustration of why we want to tighten down, work that 3-yard plane. Now, different things can happen on different plays. If the guy's just wandering around and there's really nobody's attention that he's occupying and his shoelace is beyond 3, I mean, let's not go looking for technicalities. Let's start to understand how the game is played a little better, and look for those kinds of reasons to really analyze plays and look for fouls, but let fouls jump out when there's a competitive and unfair advantage. Yeah, I mean, are you with me on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Good stuff. I think that play is a great illustration of why we can't be so liberal. It's a huge advantage. Ask any defensive coach, and after they're done, cursing about the RPO, they'll explain to you why that's such a huge advantage for the offense. But obviously, your second point is, let's just officiate the play that we're given and not get so tied into these standards. Good stuff. Yeah. I think you did a nice number on IDP there. What else you got for us?
Yeah. Let's go on. Let's talk targeting. We haven't talked a whole lot of targeting, and think about the rule. Think about, obviously we've talked a little bit before about when in doubt, we call targeting, but again, not something we want to use as a crutch. So let's just really focus today on this whole notion of indicators, targeting indicators. And really it's note 1 in the rule book underneath 913 and 914. And that note tries to explain indicators, which is taking aim at an opponent for the purposes of attacking with force that goes beyond making a normal tackle or playing the football. All right, taking aim at an opponent. So look at this play. This is a really good play. Is there forcible contact to the head neck area? Yes. Okay, no question there's forcible contact to the head neck area. It's with the shoulder. All right. Now, is this defender, do we see an indicator of targeting? Because by rule, you have to have an indicator if we're going to, call targeting or use replay for targeting. And what does that mean? Is he really taking aim? And I just don't think he was. He just more sits down to catch that player. Now check out this play. This is a runner. And so as a runner, what do we know? Really, this whole targeting, it really condenses down into just the 913 aspect in terms of crown of the helmet. And this is kind of interesting. I thought people would like to see what's going on upstairs, what's going on in the replay booth when they're analyzing targeting. They use this, and if Carl's on today, he'll help me. I believe they call this the quad. They call this the quad view. So they have all these different angles of video. And what are they looking for? They're looking for the best angle to help them analyze the play, whether it's called or not, because, really replay can get involved in targeting, whether it's called or not. So this is really an interesting perspective that a lot of us that just work on the field don't get to see. And so they're going to use these shots. They're going to basically pick the one that gives them the best look. And again, so number 12 here, clearly a runner. Process of the catch, it was over, long ago. He's transitioned to a runner, no question. So what does that mean? If this is targeting, it can only be crown of the helmet. What do we see from the defender? Is he attacking the player? Certainly. Is he taking aim? You could argue he's taking aim with his shoulder. Look at what he does with his head. Really does a nice job getting his head to the side. Look at the detail of this video that we see. Watch the 12 on the left shoulder of the runner in this frame-by-frame super slow-mo. And I know we don't get to see this on the field, when it may be a lot easier if we did. Clearly, there's force. The force of the contact is with the defender's shoulder to the body of the runner, which really kind of forces that shoulder pad up. And look at what happens to the runner's helmet. The runner's helmet goes to the side, goes almost forward in the direction he was running, which indicates there was very little contact to the helmet. You could argue there's some incidental contact to the helmet, but credit this defender for, is he attacking? Yes. Where's his target zone? Low. Where's the forcible contact? To the shoulder. He doesn't really show that linear attacking body posture with the crown of the helmet into the defender's body. Because remember, it doesn't just have to be to the helmet. It could also be to the ribs or the stomach or something, but he does a really, really good job of getting his head to the side and delivering the force of the contact with his shoulder to the body of this runner. We can use, again, we don't get to see it like this on the field, but we can use this to start to really bolster our pattern recognition, in the area of what happens to players. Okay. And now remember, think about this. Think about this play here in terms of indicators. Now we'll go back to a defenseless player like the first play. Go back to a defenseless player. And we just want to get really, really good at recognizing these indicators. Look at what 26 in the green jersey does. Now, this is what we're talking about. Taking aim at an opponent for the purposes of attacking with force that goes beyond making a normal tackle or playing the ball. This is a great example of that. Now, we've got to combine this with actual forcible contact to the head and neck area of a defenseless player or with the crown of the helmet. But if you talk about a launch, taking aim with the purposes to attack that goes above and beyond, making a normal tackle, this is what we want to recognize as a clear and obvious indicator of targeting. Okay, where's the forcible contact? I'll let you be the judge and make the call on that. Looks like he actually either gets lucky or is unbelievable at avoiding hitting the head and neck area, and force is shoulder to shoulder. But again, analyze the plays, and really the purpose of those was just to talk about what do we see in terms of identifying indicators for targeting. How do we talk about that with coaches and those words? Taking aim, attacking with the purposes of going above and beyond making a normal either tackle or play on the ball. That's what we want to start to talk about in terms of our process for identifying indicators. All right, Tuta, what do you have for questions?
So there's not really that many questions, but I think this is just a tremendous peek behind the hood, if you will, of the replay process and what the instant replay officials are doing up in the booth. And also, and I think you made the point abundantly clear. This needs to help us as we are officials on the field determine if we're going to throw our flag or not. A lot of times we just see a big hit and just automatically throw a flag and say, oh, well, replay will take me off of it. And I don't think that's necessarily what we need to be working towards. We need to be working towards really understanding the rule, understanding that we need to find some attacking element. And I think these 3 plays really illustrated that well. I think that was a really good set of plays.
Very good. Very good. And look, I know that not everybody's working games with replay, and it's not our intent to, but I think it's really interesting to use, because let's face it, replay with games with replay for targeting, this is really the play they're re-officiating. We've kind of opened that can of worms. They have to re-officiate the play because they have to confirm every aspect. And so us studying video, of how those guys confirm every aspect of targeting can only make us better. So thanks for reiterating, right. And thanks for allowing me to reiterate your reiteration. How about that?
And we have Carl's not the only one in. We have Richard Brown on. I think I saw Tony
outstanding
on, and we also have Jeff Hansen in. So we have a good contingent of our replay officials that are
beautiful
in attendance today.
Love those guys. Thanks for joining. Okay, here we go. Onside kicks. I'm not going to read all this. It's these are in the approved rulings. We're talking about forced touching. What constitutes being blocked into the ball? When do you disregard touching? When do you not? Check out these ARs. These materials are available on the website. I think it's even available in the session here if I did that right. So watch this play. This is an onside kick. Don't get to practice many of these. Never see them in scrimmages. Never see them in spring practices. All right, so watch the Oklahoma player, Kansas State player. If you look at those ARs, what does it say? When a player is engaged in the blocking process, he really, we don't really have forced touching. Now, from a mechanical perspective, side judge or field judge up there, you have the defense, you have the receiving team's restraining line. So just mechanically think about staying still. We certainly want to work to get angles, but I don't, and Tuya will help me out later, I don't think we want to move like this in terms of trying to see the most detail of this as possible. And now watch what this player does. Talk about illegal blocks on a kick. What's the rule? We got some text up there. Teammate cannot deliver a block until they're eligible to touch the ball. Okay, so this ball right here, it's not a great angle. There were better angles for the purposes of replay. We don't need to do that today. We just did a bunch of replay. This ball bounced off this player's knee. The first player that really goes in to engage this Kansas State player, who is coming up to block him certainly, but he is engaging him. Okay, that ball bounces off the Oklahoma player's knee. That's illegal touching. We're not going to disregard that as forced touching. However, this next block in by the Oklahoma player, that is illegal blocking before their teammate was eligible to touch a kick. So mechanically, we want a beanbag for the illegal touch. We'd want a flag for the block. That video was really fast. I'm going to replay that so that we can talk a little bit about that more. And you'll see similar illustrations pop up. So the rule reference will pop up again too. Little amateur hour on the video edit process here. That's all right. That's all right. But just emphasize the point, Tuya, we talk about active and passive, but really the rules don't reference that. It's more of, is he engaged in the blocking process? And if a ball touches a player who's engaged in either warding off a block or delivering a block, we cannot disregard that for forced touching. Do you agree?
Yeah, and I think we kind of got into that a couple of weeks ago when we were doing punt plays in KCI, and I think sometimes we have those old wives' tales, and I hate to call this the old wives' tale, but there's really nothing that talks about active versus passive. And I think we tend to lean on that a little bit when there's really nothing in our rule book or in our mechanics manual that discusses that. And just like you're saying, actively engaged in the block is the only thing that we need to be considered. Either blocked into or actively engaged in the block are the two things that we really need to be considered.
Yeah. What about this? What about this side judge's movement? Just best practice. I think he probably fight for an angle, but I mean, that line is hugely important. So what do you see on that?
Yeah, well, yeah, I would agree with you on that. I'm not sure why he moved. Like you're saying, he may have been trying to work to get an angle on where this touching was with the ball. But myself personally, I don't move until I've made a decision on what happened. And I wouldn't think that he would have made a decision yet because the ball hadn't even gotten to the player. But yeah.
Yep. So just to reiterate, this is not a case of forced touching. This is a player actively engaged in this blocking process. The ball hit off his leg, being nagged that for illegal touching since the kick had not traveled 10 yards. However, this is an example of an illegal block by Team A, seeking out an opponent, blocking him, clearly, overtly blocking, and that is a foul since Team A was not eligible to touch the ball, which, by the way, with all the replay guys in attendance, that aspect, both of those aspects are reviewable, believe it or not. Touching of a kick is obviously reviewable, and blocking before being eligible to touch the kick by Team A is reviewable as well. Any questions on that play?
Yeah, real quick. Let's just clarify the first, if we can pull the video up.
Yeah.
Again, let's just clarify the first Team A player down, right? He's not actively going to block the Team B player, but rather he's more receiving the contact from the Team B player. So we're saying that just to make sure we're all on the same page, are we saying that is not a foul because he's not actively seeking him out? And then draw that contrast between the second Team A player who comes in and delivers the contact.
That's right. So we say actively engaged. That doesn't mean he's delivering a block. This is clearly the receiving team player coming up to block him. So he can ward himself, he can protect himself from that. But unfortunately for him, as he's protecting him from that block, that doesn't take him off the hook for touching the kick. And that's really clear in the rule. Look at those casebook, what do they call it? Approved rulings. Look at those approved rulings that we referenced. And they'll be in the reference materials. That is super clear in the rule. They do a good job spelling that out. On the other hand, that second player in is clearly overtly seeking out the Kansas State player, the receiving team player, to deliver a block. And really what they're trying to do is clear space so that their teammates can recover. And they can do that as long as the ball has traveled 10 yards or hit the ground twice, right? We've seen that West Virginia, Kansas play a couple times through these sessions, talking about the ball pooched in the air. Obviously, they can't do that, but this ball has hit the ground twice. So they can block, but only if they're eligible to touch. When are they eligible to touch? Balls hit the ground twice, or the ball's traveled 10 yards. Now, I say the ball's hit the ground twice. I think we got in a discussion the other night. Look, the one bounce rule, it's kicked directly into the ground and then bounces high in the air as if it was pooch. So the hit the ground twice is just really a poor layman's explanation of that. I think you know what I'm trying to say. Anything to add, Daniel?
No, we got you. I think that's a really good point. And this is great action to study to make the distinction. We talked about the touching. I think we're all good there, but watching these two players and the differences in terms of the Team B player going and attacking and really seeking out this first guy versus the second player for Team A in white coming and really seeking him out. It's subtle and it's fast and it's very challenging, which is why, one of the reasons we're going to let replay get involved in this now and help us with this foul. But this is a great back-to-back contact for us to watch over and over to draw that distinction and kind of train our eyes. The first guy is really not going out and trying to block. The second guy is clearly blocking. So close, tight, fast, all of those things. However, there's a distinction and we need to be able to recognize it.
Yeah, and let me just plug the crew that was on this game. They did a masterful job with this play. All 10 of them, replay included, just masterful in getting to the proper result, which is clearly supported by our rules, clearly supported by our approved rulings in our casebook and our interpretations guide. I mean, just an unbelievable job. So for all the negativity officiating can get, man, let's point out some positivity and really point out how great of a job these guys did. Okay, back to the polls. We're going to reopen the polls.
Hey, Brandon, hold on 1 second.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, in terms of touching, you made mention that when A is able to touch the ball after the ball is bounced twice, and or went 10 yards. Also, if B touched the ball as well.
Oh,
yeah. And I know you just forgot to say that, but I just want to make sure everyone understood that as well. If B touches the ball, even if it hadn't gone 10 yards, A is now eligible to touch the ball.
And block, by the way.
That's correct.
Which is your point. Which is your point. Yeah. So bounces twice, and I know there's the one bounce thing. It's technical. You guys know what I'm trying to say. So bounces twice, it goes 10, or team B touches. Now A can block, and if some of those things haven't happened, the goes 10 or touched by B is really an or, right? Because once B touches the ball. Well, we don't want to get into fair catches today. Let's keep moving. I'm going to pin myself right into squarely into a corner. Thanks for bringing that up. Okay, back to the polls. Let's reopen the polls. Here we go. We're going to have one play that we're going to see over and over with 4 polls, and the polls are going to analyze different aspects of the play. It's a really good play. This is a really good play, which, again, there's so much good officiating going on, everybody. It's such good officiating. But this play gives us a chance to really use it as a platform to talk about different things. Okay, so here we go. Play, and let's open a poll. So we'll start the first poll. So this play is just going to loop. We shouldn't run out of any video footage here. Watch this. A lot of good looks, couple different angles, TV angle included, some replays, coach's sideline, coach's end zone. What should the line judge tell the referee at the end of this play? That's the poll. So really, you got 4 options, although one of the option combines, 2 of the options, I guess. So A, nothing. Line judge tell the referee nothing. B, no eligible receiver in the area, and the ball did not cross the line of scrimmage. So we're kind of getting back into our intentional grounding mechanics again. C, should he tell the referee that the result of the play is an incomplete pass? Or D, should he tell the referee both about the eligible receiver and the ball not crossing, and that the result of the play was an incomplete pass? All right. Really good play. Really good play with a lot of different aspects. We'll get into the defensive hold here in a little bit, so I know you might be chomping at the bit to see that. We will get into it. So right here, we're going to progress through this play. What should the line judge tell the referee at the end of this play? If you're not a line judge, so what? We all got to know this stuff. Okay? So we're seeing the play loop. Lots of votes still coming in. You just see the wheels turning out there, man. I mean, it's really cool. Poll capability, watching different angles of this video. All right, the polls are kind of slowing down. So I'll just go ahead and try to end this poll. Man, it's still changing a little bit. Must be that rounding error too, Ty. Maybe it's stuck on like a 0.5 that really bugs you, I guess.
Man, don't get me started.
Oh, man. I should just have a session on that. That is compelling stuff right there. All right, end the poll. Good Lord. Okay, so 60% said both B and C, and I'm just going to disagree. I mean, the line judge is not going to know. Please do not, as line judges, tell the referees in this kind of play that the result was an incomplete pass. You don't know. You do not know. I mean, you should be working the belt area. You should be potentially working that defensive hold. You've got different action. The referee and or center judge is going to work past fumble from the quarterback. So I didn't mean to trick anybody. That wasn't the intent. But we don't want line judges and even anybody else really on a play this tight. Look at this ends of the sky cam shot. If you're going to rule that incomplete and that ball's in the middle of the field, we've got a huge problem, especially if the defense scoops that up and is going to score the other way. All right, so don't come in and tell us what we have on pass fumble. That's a very good mechanic for you all to discuss in your own crews and just make sure everybody is consistent on that. But I think, really what we should have the line judge do here is work through your intentional grounding mechanics. So work through that. Tell the referee there's no eligible receiver in the area and the ball did not cross the line of scrimmage, and leave it to the referee to start to piece things together. All right. So there may be some issues with me saying that, especially since a lot of people thought it was both. And again, not trying to be tricky, just, our expectations here would be for the line judge to basically be working intentional grounding mechanics and not get too involved yet on the incomplete pass aspect, because that's really the referee's judgment from working this contact to the quarterback. Okay. So we're going to keep rolling through, and then we'll have, I'm sure, some pretty good discussion. All right. Poll 2, check this out. Now assume, everybody loves when I do this. Assume the referee rules that the quarterback fumbled the ball, as opposed to passing it. We just kind of talked about that. Assume the referee rules that the quarterback fumbled the ball. What should his announcement be? I mean, should he talk about R should announce no foul for intentional grounding because the ruling on the field is a fumble? Should the R make no reference to intentional grounding in his announcement? Okay, so now we're all referees trying to craft announcements. Again, we're going to talk about defensive holding. Bear with me. It's clear and obvious. Great call by the, I believe, field judge, perhaps the line judge as well. Not sure who all got in on that. Really good call. Rare defensive hold there, because how often do you see a tackle for a defensive hold? Really interesting play. But back to the R's announcement. Should we announce no foul for intentional grounding because the ruling on the field fumble, or should we really make no reference to intentional grounding? And we're going to get into a little bit of our officiating philosophies here, and how we certainly want to communicate, but we just want to be careful. We want to be careful what we do. We have to be really, really good on the field. This is why it's so important to be really, really good on the field. So I think we've seen the play, casted our vote. I'm going to end the poll, and I'm going to really, I think I'm going to start to piss some people off. I'm sorry, but we do not want to announce anything about intentional grounding here, and I'll tell you why. Let me put up our references, because this is really, really important. And all these reference materials are available. All right, let me go. We've already talked about targeting. We've talked about force touching. Here we go. This is page 27 of our officiating manual. The CCA, got an extra C in there. That's all right. The 2019 manual, officiating philosophies. And this would apply to games worked with 8-person crews, 7-person crews, 6, 5, 3, 2, 1. That does not matter. This applies to all levels across the board. Look at number 6. If the passer is contacted after he starts his passing motion, it may be ruled no intentional grounding due to the contact. So what does that mean? We'll just go back to the play. What it really means is that, if we judge the passer is getting into his passing motion and the contact by the defense affects the result of where the ball ends up, then we really don't have intentional grounding regardless of all the other aspects. And passing motion doesn't mean that that he actually started a forward pass, which is defined by intentional forward movement of the hand with control of the football. It just says passing motion. If they wanted to be specific to forward pass, they would have said that. But this is passing motion we're talking about. Watch the quarterback, and as the sky cam view comes up, it is clear he's starting his passing motion. He's cocking the football back. Look, I know there's a great shot, and we know that this is a fumble, but on the happens really fast, and there can be doubt in the referee's mind. But we have to be good enough here to say, look, he cocked his arm back before contact by the defense. Look at that shot, sky cam view. He cocked his arm back, and then that contact by the defense really affected the result of what happened to the football. Therefore, we cannot even consider intentional grounding. All right. even if there's nobody in the area, even if the ball didn't cross the line of scrimmage, all that stuff. Quarterback starts his passing motion, gets contacted by the defense, affects the result of the pass. It's not a foul for intentional grounding. The difference to that is if he starts to throw the ball clearly after contact by the defense, or he starts his passing motion clearly, he just dumps the ball basically as he's in the process of being sacked, which this clearly is not. All right. So I might have some disagreement on that, but that's okay. Let's keep rolling. Let's keep rolling and go to our third poll. So we would not want to announce anything relative to intentional grounding there because we've made the judgment on the field that the contact by the defense affected the quarterback after the passing motion. Next poll now let's get into this defensive hold and talk about penalty enforcement. This is a rules session. Penalty enforcement is what we need to know. Okay, we're assuming now that the defensive holding is the only penalty enforced. And the ruling is a fumble. Okay, so the ruling is a fumble and defensive holding is the only penalty enforced. What is the correct outcome? So you've really got 4 options. Are we going 10 yards? Remember, we're ruling a fumble now. Are we going 10 yards from the previous spot and replay second down? Are we going 10 yards from the previous spot and awarding an automatic first down? Are we going 10 yards from the end of the run, which, we talk about end of the run, what does that mean? The spot of the fumble, that's why we have beanbags. Are we going 10 yards from the end of the run and replaying second down, or are we going 10 yards from the spot of the fumble and awarding an automatic first down for this very, very good defensive holding call that we get a really nice replay of as the video continues to loop? Okay, so votes are still rolling in. As I've offended everybody with the first 2 polls, which I apologize about, but just wanted to make some points. I just want to make some points that we just have to process these things very, very accurately and use these. We got to use these philosophies that they give us. We got to study them, we got to discuss them, and we really got to use them when the situation warrants. Okay, so let's end this poll 10 yards from the previous spot and replay second down. So good rules knowledge. Why is that correct? And really, the reason is, to award an automatic first down for defensive holding, and the rule reference, I think it's 935. It's in the slides. The rule reference is 935, I believe. What you have to have a legal forward pass that crosses the neutral zone, and the foul itself has to be behind the neutral zone. So it really has to be downfield with a pass crossing the neutral zone. Why is that the rule? I don't know. I have no idea. Honestly, I have no idea why that's all necessary. But on this play, since we ruled fumble, in the situation I set up, by college football rules, we cannot have an automatic first down because we did not have a pass that legally crossed the neutral zone. Even if we ruled pass, and even if the pass did cross the neutral zone, if the calling officials judge, watch the TV angle, if the calling official judged that the foul took place at or behind the neutral zone, it still wouldn't be an automatic first down. Pass has to cross, and the foul itself has to take place downfield. All right, so good job on that one. Good job on that one. The replay is really good call. Just a lot of good officiating going on, which doesn't get as much press as some of the other perceptions. Last poll of the day. Last poll of the day, same play. Here we go. Published it. Now assume, are we, all circuits on board here, right? All circuits are firing. Now assume the referee rules pass. Okay, so I know in the last play we assumed fumble, but now let's switch. Assume the referee rules pass. An instant replay sees indisputable video evidence of a fumble. Okay, what should happen? 3 options. Instant replay should stop the game only if the referee also ruled intentional grounding. Instant replay should stop the game whether or not the referee ruled intentional grounding. Or instant replay should not stop the game at all. Think about significant competitive effect. Think about what we're doing with the play. Think about how we're administering fouls. So referee rules pass, and whether or not he rules intentional grounding, which we kind of talked about why wouldn't there, but let's forget about that for a second. If he ruled intentional grounding, should replay stop it? because they see indisputable video evidence of a fumble? Or does that even matter? Or should they just stay out of this altogether? So we're looking through this. Kind of takes a lot to process, in my opinion. There's a lot of things going on here. All right. I'm gonna just end the poll. So here we go again. Sorry, everybody. So let me just talk through this for a second. Think about what we're gonna do. The ruling on the field is the defensive hold is there. There's no question. The defensive hold is there. Maybe I wasn't clear on that. Let me just reset this. That was unfair of me. Let me reset this. We didn't take away the defensive hold. And I know I didn't talk about that. I take away the defensive hold. Reset the poll. Cast your vote again. The defensive hold is there. It never went away. All right. So now referee rules pass, and I apologize for not setting that up very well. Referee rules pass, and we have intentional grounding. Okay. Or the scenarios dictate that, right? So if the referee rules intentional grounding, what are we going to do? We're going to offset those fouls. Intentional grounding by A, defensive holding by B, offset. Okay, if the referee does not rule intentional grounding, obviously we're just going to have the defensive hold penalty enforced on team B. So these poll results are really interesting. We've seen the play casting your vote. We literally have a three-way split. Okay, if instant replay has indisputable video evidence that it's a fumble, they really only want to stop the game if the referee ruled intentional grounding. Why? Because if we ruled intentional grounding but replay overturns to a fumble, that wipes that foul away. You see what I'm saying? We're basically going to have a flag pickup there due to the replay overturn. All right. So if we didn't rule intentional grounding, which would be the better decision by the referee on this, if you rule pass, we don't need replay to stop the game, because whether we just talked about the proper penalty enforcement, right? So if we don't rule intentional grounding, we're going to go 10 from the previous shot anyway. So overturning it from a pass to a fumble, which it is, would not be significant. It just would not be significant. Now you can talk about the clock, and yeah, we could get into some timing situations, sure. But think about it. If we don't have an offensive foul here, whether or not, if we ruled this a pass and we overturned a fumble, we don't need this game stopped. It would be an unnecessary stoppage. All right, guys, a lot going on, a lot of circuits firing here. Let's get into it. What do we want to discuss?
Brandon, let's go all the way back to the very first poll question, man. I'm just a uneducated back judge back here. Why are you even gonna bring up announcing intentional grounding? You made the ruling on the field that it's fumble. I don't get it. Help me out.
Sure. Well, I'm not. I'm not on this play.
Right. Okay. So let me rephrase. Why does that even enter into our brains? Is there a scenario where you would?
Sure.
Like you're ruling fumble.
Sure, absolutely. We've got to get better at this. We've really got to get better at this as referees and as crews. If all the conditions are met for an intentional grounding foul, again, they all have to be met. They're not in this play because the contact by the defense affects the result of the flight of the ball. But if that didn't exist, if all other conditions are met for intentional grounding, then we do, the line judge should be really good about this. And I think you can see he was on this play. We want to report nobody in the area, the pass did not cross the neutral zone. And then the referee, okay, well, he's out of the pocket, but since that, and I've got him passing the ball and he's avoiding a sack, so then, if the referee's ruling fumble, it's like, man, that was really tight. I'm just going to announce no foul play for intentional grounding. The ruling on the field is a fumble. And what that does is, like we've talked about in games with instant replay, that opens up all our tools to get the play right. Because in the case where we rule fumble, but instant replay has it as a pass, and they overturn it, if all conditions are met for intentional grounding, we want to enforce that penalty so that we don't, basically if we don't enforce the penalty, it's just an incomplete pass at the previous spot, and where the defense made a really good play, loss of 6 yards. We want to make sure we have every tool available to us to get the play right.
Got it. Good explanation. And I think also what you said at the very beginning, referees, certainly let's get better at this, but crews, let's be, situationally aware. If that sounds familiar, let's even on the back end, let's have a sense of what's happening, and referees processing all of that. They don't get to process a whole lot of action very often. So we got to help them through this, right? He's got pass, fumble. Was the contact involved? Let's just be willing to get in there and say, hey, wait a second, we're ruling fumble. Would you have the potential for intentional grounding? Help them start to process all of those elements as a crew, and let's take ownership of it.
Yeah. What other discussion points? I just thought this was a great play to use as a platform for all these different concepts. How do we enforce defensive holding properly by rule? Again, pass got to cross neutral zone. Foul's got to be downfield. A lot of good concepts here. What else?
I want to echo what you're saying, Brandon, about how tremendous this play is. I mean, it's just a simple play that's a pass or fumble with the defensive hold, but there are so many elements. We probably could spend an entire pregame on the different elements of just one play. And I think it just reinforces what we've been talking about. I think from the beginning of this clinic is when we watch film, let's not just look at what's readily apparent and what's presented to us. Let's consider everything that all of the elements of the play that could come into effect to make us a better crew from a communication standpoint, from a rules standpoint, and just from a game administrative standpoint as well.
Yeah, good point. And again, the crew handled this play about as perfect as you can handle it. Really strong. You can see the line judge communicating, field judges coming in, the referees processing everything that related to this play. What else? Anything else?
No, I think that was it.
Yeah, and just as a reinforcement for our line judges, watch this line judge. He doesn't actually just kills the clock. He doesn't signal incomplete. All right. He doesn't signal incomplete. He just kills the clock. And we just want to be everybody in the habit when it's tight pass fumble, the ball's coming out weird. Just leave it to the referee to rule. I realize this ball goes out of bounds. He's just killing the clock because the ball's out of bounds. He has no idea if it's a pass or a fumble. So we got to communicate, get everything up, use our philosophies, use our rules knowledge, and we'll get these plays right. Just looking through. Yeah, Jeff has a good question. But Jeff, think about it. I mean, use this play as a platform for all these different rules and guidelines we can follow. Sure, if the referee got himself into an angle where he couldn't really see that's fine. But the quarterback's body posture does give us the impression of a pass. I think most of us from the referee position are going to rule this a fumble. We see the defender make a great play on the football, and it really jars the ball loose. Quarterback pushes a loose ball forward. So he's already fumbled the ball when the ball goes forward. But if all conditions for intentional grounding are met, we have to do a lot better as a crew communicating that, to let replay help us in terms of all our tools to get the play right. Now, what could happen is if we could just make the announcement, and Jeff, you'll kind of go with me on this, I think. We could just make our announcement of ruling on the field's a fumble and then force the defensive hold. If we can get communication that, replay's looking at this for a pass and they decide to pay, then we really could at that time have the referee make that announcement. So different crews work that out with how you want to communicate that. It's really complex. Look, it's complex just going through it right now. I've looked at the play 100 times. Think about how complex it is in the field with one shot. So it just underlines the point of preparation, communication. We can't just show up. If we think we're just going to show up and nail this play like this crew did, it's not going to happen if we don't just start to really, really communicate and consider these aspects of our game. So, guys, anything else?
Hey, Brandon, I think the key takeaway, though, and just to reiterate, if we're going to make that announcement, we have to make that announcement before we get under the replay process as the referee with the headset on and everything. We can't come out and make the announcement afterwards, after we initiate the replay process. Correct?
Yeah, that's right. By rule, the announcement for us to put a foul on for intentional grounding after the replay process, when replay overturns from fumble to pass, we have to make the announcement that there was no foul for intentional grounding because the ruling on the field was a fumble. We have to make that announcement before the referee goes into the replay process. And what that means is really putting on the headset. It's a good point.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. And I see, Jeff, you're trying to visualize when that announcement would be needed. I've got about 3 different scenarios where I failed miserably. And I should have, and I actually cost the defense what was it? Daniel, you were on the game too. In
20-something yards, I think.
15 yards, 20 yards.
Yeah,
because I failed miserably on the play to make the. I should have put that play on here, I guess. But I failed miserably to make that announcement. We get over and they say this is a pass. And I said, well, this is intentional grounding. It's obvious, but you didn't make the announcement. And so you just can't really make it up as you go. That's not what replay is intended for.
We all
we got to be better.
Right, and that's what, Daniel, thank you for saying that, because I was about to cut Brandon off too. You did not fail. The crew failed on a play like that, because we all need to have that awareness and have that communication, because you may just be processing other things and not have that immediately in the front of your mind. And we all need to be aware of situations like that and help everyone out on the crew to be able to get these plays right. And we saw that yesterday. We were talking about that a little bit yesterday in game management. There's no eye on the crew. If there's an eye, then we have a problem.
Yeah, and just want to address a comment. I don't know if you're being. I'm not sure what the comment, the nature, but this, and I think Jeff would agree. This is indisputable that it's a fumble, because I know the quarterback's arm is cocked, but really look at the hand moving forward. A forward pass is defined as intentional forward movement of the ball controlled by the hand, in control of the hand. Intentional forward movement of the hand with control of the ball. That never happens on this play. When the quarterback intentionally moves his hand forward, there's not a ball in there. Okay, and if there is, the ball's clearly loose. And anytime you see the ball come out of from the quarterback spinning like a helicopter like this, it's fumble. I mean, it's a fumble. We're gonna rule fumble. Just be careful, because if we try to say just because he cocked the ball or whatever, he's on the run and the ball's up by his ear, that really doesn't start the passing motion. Look at our definitions. The pass is defined as intentional forward movement of the ball, in control of the hand. So really, really good questions and discussion. Appreciate everybody. Is there another question, guys, that or did we nail them all?
We had one that, if we want to go back, Brandon, to when we talked about IDP, and if the quarterback throws the ball away, we had a what-if scenario. If we have defensive holding on a play where we would normally ignore ineligible downfield on the pass if the quarterback is throwing the ball away, would we want to offset, or will we only enforce the defensive holding?
Well, we'd only enforce the defensive holding, because by rule, there's an exception to the IDP rule, which is if the quarterback legally throws the ball away at or beyond the sideline, it's not a foul for IDP. So, I mean, is that not clear am I the only one that, am I making that up or something? Or are you with me on that or no?
No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was thinking about it myself, and it does seem kind of unfair to penalize the defense when the offense fouled as well. But, I mean, we can always lean on by rule. I mean, by rule was not a foul. If it was a philosophy, maybe there'll be something different. But if it's by rule, like you're saying, I mean, it's not a foul.
Yeah. So no, if there's a defensive foul, but we got a guy downfield, I understand the coach is going to be upset. I mean, that's not what we're talking about. But we are there to administer the rules of the game. So in that case, quarterback legally throws the ball away at or beyond the sideline, pick up the flag for IDE. Absolutely. Okay, looks like we are clear. Okay, I mean, we just can't get away from it. These are really good questions. I love it. If the pass was to the receiver and not thrown away, well, then it is IDP. I mean, the exception is very, very specific. The pass has got to be legally thrown away at or beyond the sideline. And if it's not, it's IDP. So we would absolutely enforce that. I think we're answering those questions, right? One last chance, guys. Anything else? All right, everybody. Have a great Sunday. Don't forget Mother's Day. Support your support system. Love on them. Thanks, guys, so much for being on. It was a lot of fun. If you have questions,
stuff, Brandon.
very good. If you have questions, let us know. We'll see you next time.